Cool. Hello, welcome to this second in a series of NAYT videos, kind of exploring different aspects of youth theatre and the sector. My name's Henry, project manager for NAYT, and I'm joined by Hannah Draper, who's on the board for NAYT. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do here at Harrogate Theatre, Hannah?
So at Harrogate Theatre, I'm the head of education. Mm-hmm. That means that I'm responsible for everything that young people do in our building. Mm-hmm. Our youth theatre starts at age 3, goes up to 18. And then we have some adult things, kind of ad hoc, which I also oversee. And everything to do with schools. I'm also responsible for access and the creative case for diversity. So it's quite a broad role. A
nice broad role, but obviously, and then you also do directing and working with the groups, most of the older groups here at Harrogate Theatre. Yeah. And we're in the Bumblebee room, as you can see. Ta-da! Bumblebees! Ta-da! Can you tell us about Hive, this building we're in?
So Hive, we got access to Hive about 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So when I first started at Harrogate Theatre, we didn't have a dedicated education space. We had to basically carry amps to different church halls across the town, amps and loads of scripts and just really achy arms. So this building, we were really lucky. It's just above a building society, and then we've got the 2 floors above. So we've got 2 rooms that we can program anything that we want education-wise into, which has completely changed how we work. It means we can have a lot more sessions. It means we can have 2 sessions running at the same time, which is magic, because obviously that's Saturday morning, kind of prime time, working with your under-12s. And it's also used as rehearsal space for our associate companies as well, which means we're kind of extending into learning in a different side at the same time.
Cool. So for this little chat, we thought we'd... last time, if you missed the video I did with Gemma from Leeds Playhouse, we looked at what text to choose, where to find it, commissioning writers, new writing. We're assuming for this chat that you have a text, and this is just a chat about bringing that in the room. Yes. But just as to say, as always, this is just our opinions, and this is when NAYT is not enforcing any specific practice on anybody. This is just a conversation. If you want to join in the comment section below for some thoughts, that's always cool. So first of all, I guess I'd just be interested, what appeals to you in a text as a writer? So what are you looking for when you've got that script?
Do you know, I'm doing it literally at the minute. So what appeals to me is straight away seeing that there are enough equal roles as much as possible for our young people. I don't like to do things where it's heavily weighted on one person where possible, because I think that's a lot of pressure on the young person, and also means that you've got up to, in my groups, 19 other people going, me, I want to do something. So we want everyone to be engaged in that rehearsal room. So that's my first port of call. And then I'm looking for something that will engage me. And if it engages me, is it going to engage the young people as well? Usually, I guess that's the other way around. Is it going to engage the young people, and then will it engage me? But ultimately, I think they've got to get through the barrier of me reading to the end of that script. So that's kind of where I come from with it.
On a practical level, so you've picked a text, and you know this is what's going to be the production. Yep. When would you bring even the idea that this is the play they're going to do in the room? Do you kind of make? Is it like a year in advance? Is it that term? Like, at what point do they? You were like, this is the text.
I wish it was a year in advance. It's just not. We will usually introduce the text at the end of the previous term. So we work in 3 10-week blocks, and we will introduce the script in week 9 or 10 of the previous term, so they know what they're signing up for the next term. And also, we sometimes try and cast it at that point, so people have got the holiday period to learn their lines. So hopefully by week 1 we're hitting the ground running. But it's magical last words, isn't it?
I've noticed upstairs you've got there's a sign up for the 15 pluses,
yes.
And it says X amount of weeks till term,
yes.
X amount of tickets sold.
Yes.
Is that something that you like? Because there's an argument to say, don't young people worry about that, there's the marketing department's worry, or do you want that to be, this is your play, you've got ownership, so therefore let's talk about how we're pushing it?
Yeah, it's combined really. So that's up there because they're in the main house for the first time instead of the studio, so there is more pressure on selling tickets. We're quite lucky, not necessarily from a financial point of view, but just we want it to be a worthwhile experience for them. There's nothing worse than playing in a big room and there's only 4 people in there. Not that kind of numbers are that low ever, but it's a worry. So that's there for that reason, and to kind of put the onus on them that they need to be encouraging people to come and see shows. I tend to find that with our 15 plus, they're like, yeah, I'm doing this thing. I don't need to invite mum and dad. Like, they just know it's my thing and it's mine, and I don't need to come.
I've been doing this for years. They've seen me do other plays, so they're kind
exactly.
of... Yeah.
So they tend to get a little bit more embarrassed about what they're doing, in terms of, oh, I don't need mum and dad to come and see this, or I'm not going to invite my friends. I'm like too cool for it. And you're like, no, this is the age when what you're creating is so superb. Everybody needs to come. So it's about encouraging that, and it's a nice little visual reminder for them. And the weeks left is to remind them that you're only seeing us once a week. So suddenly time is dropping down all the time. You've got to get on it with where you are with your script as well. Just that little visual reminder.
Yeah. So so when you bring the text in, is it just a standard, we'll do a read through, and even in that read through, how do you kind of introduce it to them in the room?
I think we usually probably do, I try and make the read through as active as possible where I can. So we will sit round and kind of people have certain roles, or it will change with each new character. When we read the Odyssey, which is what we're doing this term, how we read it was, I'd just go around the circle and the next 4 people would read those roles regardless of gender, because it just doesn't matter. But if there's big bits that everyone can get involved in, I will try and get everyone up on their feet and be like, right, do your shocked face, do your reaction, do this, just so it's not quite really text, kind of dull, I guess, so everyone's engaged. That's what I try and do. And to get them on board, this time they didn't have a choice of text, but in the past they have. So we've read 2 extracts and they've chosen their favourite one. That helps. This time we've sold it to them. It's much more about the style of what we're doing. We did a Frantic Assembly residency in August, and we're carrying that style through we carried it through in their autumn terms. They were kind of developing that physical language, and now that language is being adapted with text. So that's kind of how we went through. In previous terms, we'll equip them with the skills that they'll need for that term. So if we're doing puppetry, we do a puppetry term and then put it into a play. So that's how we get them excited.
Obviously time dependent, but how much do you like to play with the text before you're blocking, or is it just a case that it means you have to be like on production? Yeah,
with our terms there is not really that much time to play. In 10 weeks you've got 15 hours if you kind of take out warm-ups and stuff, so there's not a lot of time to experiment. That is something that we kind of go every term, so that's why we've started shifting it a little bit more into the term before, where we'll read a little bit more or we'll experiment with ideas. But yeah, once that text's there, you've got to hit so many scenes every week, so there isn't an awful lot of time for doing as much of the exploring as maybe we'd like to. But equally, I feel like if we've got a year to put on this play, the interest levels would drop. So it's a little bit chicken and egg, I think.
One of the worst workshops I've ever attended about text. There's not one of yours, do not worry. Many years in the past, and it was talking about some casting, and the guy just went, oh, the way I cast is I just go, right, who wants to read this? And then someone in the room put their hand up and he was like, right, cool, you can read that. And his method of casting was just was kind of confident enough. I mean, I use that as an example. I think that's quite poor, because then just the confident group members will put their hand up and be like, I'll do that. So what's your approach to casting to ensure that everyone's involved? That you, because obviously there are some young people that kind of want to get hold of something and work with it, and you need to acknowledge that. But at the same time, there's some that may be a little bit quieter, but you want to give them some focus.
I think that's where, having worked with them for a number of terms, that comes in. So you're aware of what they're like as an individual, how much pressure they want to be under, and how much they want to do a certain type of role. So there's that absolute knowledge of the workshop leader and the workshop assistants that we have in the room as well. We definitely get their opinion. And then, as much as possible, we will ask them about what their commitments are like. Yeah. So how much time have you realistically got? What year group are you in at school? When are your exams? When's your coursework due? That we know will always come above a youth theatre show. So let's get that set first and then see where everything else is at. And then we ask them, after we've read, to kind of select a couple of characters that they would like to play in kind of ideal blue sky world. Or if, certainly with something like the Odyssey, there's like 40 odd characters. So when you've done a read through, you're not engaging with all those characters. They're in one scene and they're not anywhere else. So we'll just ask for whether they want kind of small, medium, large kind of role, and we'll do that where possible.
Yeah. And then I guess it's such a boring thing to say, but
Go
there's
on.
line learning, isn't it? Like
Yes.
line learning is that pressure, and I just wonder if there's ways. I mean, you know, there's the more kind of stricter, be like, you have to learn these at a certain time. But is there ways that you can creatively encourage them to be on it and to help them that isn't just being like, just do it?
No, it'll work one year and it won't work the next.
Yeah.
It all depends on the individual, and it is the bane of, I think, every workshop leader's life. So ways that I've tackled it, or ways that I'm tackling it at the minute, your deadline was this date, and being more bad cop than I am normally about why haven't you done this, a little bit less understanding than normal, because I'm going, if this is in your hands still, we can't do anything with these two magical hands, can we? I can't direct you if I'm looking at the script and prompting you, because you have not spent any time learning them. So there's a little bit more of that kind of general being bad cop. I've started emailing parents and just going, hi, this is the 15 plus, hi, their deadline was this date, they don't know their lines yet, can you support them please, because we're going to do this scene next week and I want them to thrive. So coming at it from a not please go and tell off your child, but please can you help them
in advance then? So
yes.
So it's manageable in the sense that like, look, like you need to be on it for this bit. We're not asking you to know everything, but you have the schedule. It's that responsibility.
Yeah, and that's partly because of how this text is, in that there's so many different scenes that it kind of made sense to go, you're in that scene, and they've got Lizzie, who is the education officer here, did an amazing breakdown of which character was in which scene, so every young person has got like a little thing that they can track about what they do in every single scene, which in many ways they should do themselves, but as much kind of resource that we can put on them as possible helps. And then with our younger ones, we do after school clubs, which work in a similar way to youth theatre, in that you're performing at the end of a term, but they're under 12. So on the front page, I learnt this from Jenna at York Theatre Royal, just to give her a little shout out. She would put on the front page, lines need to be learnt for this date, so parents would see it if it was kind of lying around at home. Lines need to be learnt by this date, here are some tips for learning lines. And it's stuff about running it through at home, writing it down, recording it on a phone and hearing it back to yourself, recording the line before yours and leaving a gap, all that kind of stuff that we know, but it's written down on the front so the adults at home can see it and be like, oh, this is how we help. Because I think sometimes there's that assumption of, it's really easy, just pick it up, learn it. And if your family has nothing to do with theatre like mine, then they wouldn't necessarily know how to help me learn them. So that's the way.
Cool. And then finally, just kind of one last point, I guess. I know that the 12 to 14s at the moment are kind of looking at lots of text about actioning and all that stuff. Now, I've never really kind of trained as a director, so I kind of came to this a little bit later in a career, and it was through kind of youth theatre when I was working with young people, being like, okay, let's action this. So can you just talk a little bit about, got the text and how you'd work through, that's physical blocking or and looking at the text, but how you kind of break down scenes and characters in that way.
So, we encourage the young people to action their own texts, fully aware that they're not necessarily going to do it. If I'm directing one scene and they're kind of in their own little pockets, running lines and stuff, we encourage them to action and we give them all the tools and the vocab too, but they're not necessarily doing it. So what helps me as well is if I've been through and actioned. So when we've got a scene up on its feet, I can go, how do you think you're saying this line? What is your intention with this line? How do you want to affect the people around you? And if they can give me an answer, great. And if they can't, I've got something there straight away. Because I think that's the thing.
Especially with 40 characters, ensemble scenes, as a director, there's a lot for you to manage.
So much going on. And you are going, oh, why is Odysseus saying this now? And how does Nausicaa feel about that? And your head's just a jumble. And when you kind of walk into the room and someone's going, hi, I haven't got this today, or hi, just so you know, I'm feeling a bit sick, that all that's going around your head and you just need to focus on the words. So that helps me a lot. We're saying actioning like everyone knows what it is. It is just that idea of thinking with each and every line, every sentence, what is your intention to the next character? How do you want to affect them? And if you Google actioning verbs, loads of lists and stuff come up. So I absolutely cheat and I have a list of words and I go through with lines and go, it's that one, it's that one. And it also means that I've got a wider vocab to use then, rather than you're questioning. It's you're querying, your what's the word? Exploring, all that kind of stuff, which has got a slightly different tone about it. So you're not just kind of going, oh, how are you? you're trying to get something out of them.
I've sometimes, if it's like a singular character on stage,
Yeah.
and I've got 20 young people in the wings, I've gone to them and said, what do you think this character's feeling?
Yeah.
And that like bounce around some thoughts, and then obviously the buck stops with me as the director to go, right, we'll kind of go with that idea over there, but like open it up to the group more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, using anyone who's not in the scene, who is already on it, they can come and kind of assist direct, and you kind of go through and then go, right, what do you think? Oh, absolutely, yeah, we need to tweak that. And then they are getting that more ownership over it. So we do that. In terms of blocking, I don't think I do anything different to anyone else really, but where I can put a game in, I'll put a game in.
Okay.
So we've got 2 characters, and they're 15 plus. They don't want to do this, but they've got to pretend to be in love with each other, and they don't want to. Well, it's not they don't want to do it. They feel very awkward about it, as anyone would. So instead of saying you need to go as if you're going to kiss her, we'll do stuff. The kind of age-old hand-to-hand, body-to-body game. So we're going. It's as if you're going to do nose-to-nose. And that just feels so much safer than going leaning as if you're about to have a snog because you haven't seen your wife in 40 years, however long. So yeah, where we can add in games like that. And there's a game at the start of our show this time because I just needed them to be really rowdy when they were coming on, and they were just acting rowdy as opposed to having that passion and that of getting into the scene. So we set up a game that they got very competitive about, and now it's just lifted the scene. So wherever we can, doing that.
Excellent, cool. Thank you very much, Hannah. So,
no problem.
Thank you very much for checking out the video. If you've got any thoughts about anything we've discussed, maybe some line learning tips or blocking thoughts or how to manage the room or bring text to a group, please just comment below, share the video. We'll be doing more of these, so any suggestions for stuff you want kind of discussed or if you want to be involved. Cheers.
Thank you.